Well, training camp is officially here, so let's talk about day one highlights, including Kadarius Toney tweaking his knee before practice even started, Chris Jones not in attendance and holding out for now, and Andy Reid being surprised about that, a wide receiver that clearly separated himself above the rest today, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, training camp is officially here, and I cannot be more excited. And upon the entrance of Patrick Mahomes, the crowd rained down chants of MVP as he made his way out onto the field. It was also reported that Patrick Mahomes didn't have a single bad pass in the Chiefs' truncated opening day full team practice, which is probably not fully true, as who doesn't have a bad pass from time to time, but I'm sure nearly all of them were right on the mark, with QB1 already appearing to be in midseason form. And while Mahomes and every other vet was indeed spotted at camp today, there was one player that was very noticeably missing, and that is defensive tackle Chris Jones. Not a real surprise to most people. He didn't report in yesterday for the conditioning test and wasn't spotted out there today, as he and his camp and the Chiefs continued to try to get one more long-term contract done. However, Adam Schefter shared last night that the two sides, Chris Jones and the Chiefs, remain, quote, far apart on a new deal. And on the outside, that doesn't appear to be very good news, but I think it's a bit overblown. At least that's what I initially thought until I heard Andy Reid's presser. More on that in a moment, but what I really think this could mean is a few things, or a combination of all three of them. It could be a bit of posturing from Chris Jones and his representation, just trying to play their hand in an attempt to help get Chris Jones's contract numbers up as high as they possibly can. It could also mean that the Chiefs are wanting to pay Chris Jones closer to Quinnen Williams' average of $24 million per year. Meanwhile, Chris Jones and company are wanting closer to Aaron Donald's $31.6 million per year. Remember, that's the second highest paid versus the highest paid DT, with neither side wanting to budge too much. And lastly, the far apart comment could also be a matter of how much guaranteed money the contract will include. And I personally think it's a combination of all three things. Maybe Chris wants a bit more per year and more guaranteed money than the Chiefs are currently comfortable with. So here we are. They're in a bit of a stalemate. In the end, though, I do think a deal gets worked out and wouldn't stress too much about it at the moment. Remember, Chris Jones is still under contract this season and is being fined like $50,000 every day that he misses. So I wouldn't expect this to go on too terribly long. New deal or no new deal. I am still at this point in time, at least like 90% confident the Chiefs aim to keep their best player on defense and arguably the best defensive player, one of the best defensive players in the entire league, a Chief for life, or at least for the next few years. And while Andy didn't have much to say about the situation, here's the little opening statement he did make about it.
We'll just see how things go here down the road. There had been communication. We'll see where it goes from here, and we'll take it. If you're not here, we just keep moving, and that's how we roll. We don't worry a lot about that. We let it take care of itself, and we got great people working on that. So I'm not worried about that.
And when asked about Chris Jones again and the timing of his arrival, Coach said, "I don't know about that and don't really have an answer for you," meaning please stop asking me questions about him. However, the questions did not stop, and Big Red's answer in a second here actually revealed he was a bit surprised that Chris Jones did not show up to camp on time.
Yeah, I'd probably tell you that, yeah. I was a bit surprised.
Big Red also shared that communication with Chris Jones was good with him until just a bit ago.
Yeah, it's been good up to just a bit ago. So they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
I think it's just Chris Jones and his camp posturing themselves during the stalemate is all it is, and we will see him very soon. But either way, I'll keep you updated on that. We got to move on, though, staying on the subject of the defensive line, because Charles Omenihu took to Twitter last night with a PSA of sorts. He said, "Please stop disrespecting me on this app. I rush at 3-tech and also rush at defensive end. I'm a versatile pass rusher and a hard edge-setting defensive end, and a damn good one at all of those things, too. Good night, because I need to get up for camp early in the morning." And while I have no idea who Omenihu is referring to in this tweet, I'm very excited the Chiefs will have this man and his versatility on their defensive line that loves to shift players all over to create the best matchups possible. Anyway, as far as camp injuries are concerned, defensive tackle Turk Wharton is still on the PUP list, but could be seen working on the sideline with trainers as he continues to rehab that repaired ACL. Rookie offensive lineman Wanye Morris was seen out there at practice, but without a helmet, and Andy Reid said it's a hamstring strain that he sustained during rookie minicamp, but it isn't a bad one, so he should be back out there pretty quickly. Another player not quite ready to go yet, even though he's always living his life on 100. I think he has Red Bull IV'd directly into his arm, but that is running back Isaiah Pacheco. He was out there again, practicing, doing what he could, but still donning that yellow vest for the time being, which Andy Reid said it's basically for his safety. Because he wants to go 1,000% every single play. And then someone else that was seen out prior to practice was wide receiver Kadarius Toney, but he unfortunately tweaked his knee early before practice even officially started.
And then Kadarius tweaked his knee on the punt return out here, pre-practice punt return. And so, we'll just see how he does as we go forward.
So yeah, it looks like he was out there returning punts, around 5 of them or so before practice, then walked off into the medical tent and wasn't seen the rest of the day. And while it's only day 1 and very early with plenty of time, this has to be a slight cause for concern, especially given his injury history as it is. We've all been saying it all offseason long. Kadarius Toney has every trait of being wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs, and if healthy, 1,200 yards from scrimmage is very, very achievable. But the thing is, you have to stay on the field to have wide receiver 1 level production, because production comes from being out there and healthy. And if this is a continued problem, I could definitely see the Chiefs potentially being like, yup, we are rolling with 7 wide receivers this year and adding someone on the back end like Justyn or John Ross to have more weapons at their disposal in case of injuries. It's definitely a possibility with no fullback on the roster and Kadarius Toney seemingly not able to stay healthy for long periods of time. And speaking of the man himself, Justyn Ross, he was indeed seen out there healthy and working. He was practicing punt returns early on, and then you could see him here catching a pass from Blaine Gabbert, but he was also spotted getting some work in with the ones, catching a couple of passes, and UDFA running back Deneric Prince was also seen out there with the ones working in what capacity he was able to, considering there's still no pads on, and probably won't be any pads on for a week or so, but it was reported he was catching passes pretty well out of the backfield, making several nice grabs, which is certainly a good sign. And from here, I want to take a moment to shout out the crew at KC Sports Network. They're sharing a lot of great clips in real time, all training camp long on their Twitter. So make sure to give them a follow at KC Sports Network on Twitter or X or whatever it's going to be called, as well as YouTube. Links to both in the description for all the great coverage they are doing, not only for the Chiefs, but every sports team in the KC area. And no, this was not sponsored. They're just doing some really good work. Anyway, a couple players spoke to the media today, with Justyn Reid saying he put on 10 pounds of muscle this offseason and still feels just as quick. He said he's been training like Keanu Reeves and John Wick and has that assassin mentality. And while Spags' system isn't easy, everyone in the secondary is out here and willing to put in the work, even the young guys. They are humble and taking it all in, gleaning from the veterans. And on the subject of the defense, linebacker Nick Bolton said there's a belief internally that the Chiefs could finish top 10 on defense, saying they have a lot of players with real experience in the system that could help push them into the top third of the league. And if that does indeed come even close to happening, the Chiefs defense being top 10 or even near it, the Chiefs will have a very good chance of finding themselves back in the Super Bowl at the end of this season. Something else Nick said I found to be pretty funny was that a new DB called him Sir, and Nick Bolton is only 23 years old and did not like that. Here's what he had to say.
It's kind of crazy. A lot of the young guys don't believe I'm 23 years old, man. So I tell my 23, man, look at me like I'm crazy. I got on one of the young DBs, man, called, I said, yes, sir. I'm like, man, I'm 23 years old, man. You're probably older than me. So no reason to call him yes, sir, man.
Please don't call me sir. I'm younger than you. Well, let's move on. Let's look at the offensive line here, because right now, the Chiefs have the first team offensive line, to no surprise, looking like this. Donovan Smith on the left, then Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey in the center, Trey Smith at right guard, and Jawan Taylor on the right side. Again, no real surprise, but for the second team O-line from left to right was Prince Tega Wanogho, Nick Allegretti, Mike Caliendo, Darian Kennard, and Lucas Niang, with Niang reportedly moving very well and looking the best he's been since his injury. Andy Reid seemed optimistic about Niang and his health during his presser, and while Niang may not be starting this season, Jawan Taylor is going to be a hard man to surpass, we'll just put it that way. It's always great to have valuable depth pieces on the line, and that is, if he can stay healthy, exactly what Lucas Niang is. And one last note about the second team O-line. Remember, Wanye Morris did not practice today and could more than likely have been the second team left tackle if he was healthy, but time will certainly tell there. And then several commented that Trent McDuffie stood out today, seen in tight coverage on multiple plays, including this one where he attempted a leaping swat like me at one of these stupid flies by my lights as he was one-on-one versus MVS near the sideline. McDuffie was also seen in coverage here against Rashee Rice, who Mahomes did find late on a scramble drill of sorts, and McDuffie actually tackled him to the ground. I don't think you're supposed to do that yet. Oh well. And then while MVS didn't catch that previous pass I talked about, he did have a great route here that Mahomes complimented out loud as he threw MVS the ball, and then he caught a deep ball from Patrick here with Casper, the friendly ghost, close behind in coverage. Another player Patrick had a great great connection with was tight end Jody Fortson on this play here, as Jody stood up in the end zone like, yes, sir, more touchdowns like this incoming. And he did indeed have more than one touchdown today in red zone work, which is no real surprise. And on the subject of players standing out and catching some passes, it looks like Sky Moore is going to be given the nod for more opportunities as he enters year 2. He had a solid catch from Mahomes here on a deep pass, taking it to the house, and nearly had another one on this play, but linebacker Willie Gay Jr. was able to break the pass up at the very last second. A phenomenal play by him in which he said, no, no, no. And on the subject of linebackers, Drew Tranquil ran this drill looking like an absolute freight train, and I'm excited to see more from this man during camp. Nick Bolton complimented Drew, saying there's always room on the team for a true veteran like Drew. He's been nothing but helpful already, and he's had a lot of great things to share with the room itself. Someone else I'm excited to see more from is quite possibly the standout player of the entire day, and that is wide receiver Richie James, with many people mentioning he made multiple great plays, finding good rhythm with Mahomes early. Pete Sweeney said there are 2 Chiefs on offense that popped on day 1, running back Deneric Prince, who is catching everything thrown to him, and wide receiver Richie James, who is showcasing his speed and ability to cut quickly in space. The crowd gasped as he juked Najee Johnson out of his shoes in red zone 7-on-7. Adam Teicher said it was a good start to camp for Richie James, who after more than one catch showed a little of that Tyreek Hill, Kadarius Toney change of direction. And then Ron Kopp Jr. said that Richie was shaking dudes left and right on the last red zone play, has that Toney-like quickness. And I'm honestly not surprised about him already standing out, with him being one of the only 2 receivers that have had over 500 receiving yards in a season outside of MVS. And I know I keep bringing that stat up, but it is a significant stat in my eyes. And with Kadarius Toney already struggling with injuries early, other receivers are going to be looked upon to step up, especially because Travis Kelce is not getting any younger. And speaking of Kelce, Mahomes had a great connect with him here. And though it was reported he wasn't on the field an overwhelming amount, he made the most of every single opportunity, which certainly is not a surprise. Another tight end trying to make the roster the most of every opportunity given is Matt Bushman, who caught a TD from Blaine Gabbert here. And he is someone who could sneak his way onto the 53-man roster, but he would have to beat out Blake Bell to do it. However, remember, Blake Bell spent most of last season on IR with the hip injury, had surgery. Then he was a healthy scratch in the postseason, and also recently missed most of, if not all of OTAs due to an appendectomy. So that tight end 4 spot is certainly one to watch, especially with Matt Bushman and him balling out last preseason before his injury. But Blake is a veteran, knows the offense very well. It's going to be hard to potentially dethrone him even at tight end 4, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities. And with all that being said, what are your thoughts on camp today, along with some of your favorite day 1 standouts? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, tomorrow, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?